The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Weekly Forecast.
Hey guys, this is the weekly forecast for January 10th through the 14th of 2022. Okay, we'll start off with the Euro Yen pair. This is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since the last long trade that formed was right here, with a stop loss at this pivot low right here, then last year there was legitimate compact short price action that formed right here, which shows strong short strength. And so in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. And moreover, at the current moment, price reached a monthly strong gap level right here, which applies long strength and thus the pullback in this area. Since the weekly bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. In the short term, I'm also short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, we'll stay on this weekly chart. For a full explanation of what happened to price in this entire area right here, please refer to the Forex Recap series. Okay, but the most recent move that's happening on this pair is as follows. So again, since the weekly bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high right here. At the end of last year, there was actually a nice pullback entry for a great short trade with minimal risk, because the risk is at this height right here. And so price came right back down to have a monthly close past another major gap level on the monthly chart right here. And at the current moment, price is testing an even larger monthly gap level right here, which provides strong long strength. However, at the current moment, although price is pulling back rather strongly, this weekly bias short is still intact. So I'm waiting for a pullback as much as possible to that stop loss level right here, so I could take a short entry with this main target being right back down here again. Okay, so before I show you the monthly levels I'm looking at that provide strong long strength, let me just show you what happened on the lower time frames in these areas this week to see how much of a pullback we could get for that short entry. So let's go over to the 1 hour chart. Okay, so on this 1 hour chart, if you recall in my last forecast, I was mentioning there is confirmation of lower time frame strong long strength. And that was due to this trend line breakout at this level right here, and more of the immediate recovery with a break back into this trend line, and on top of that, price reaching this 1 hour major pivot high right here. And so we were expecting a little bit more pullback long in these areas right here. However, this week in this area right here, this lower time frame confirmation of long strength began to wane a little bit. Now let me explain this to you on the 4 hour chart. So let's go over to the 4 hour chart. Okay, so on this 4 hour chart, try to on this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there's many respects on this, making this a very prominent trend line. And as you can see at this level right here, there was a breakout of this trend line and moreover immediate recovery long. Now again, what I mean by immediate recovery is that the close and the next candle's open is at the same level. And moreover, we did get that price action right up to the last major pivot high right here. However, in this case, the break back into this trend line was on the next candle at this level right here. Now, in my opinion, a break back into this trend line, not on the candle after the breakout candle, does not qualify for short-term long strength. Or at the very least, it's not as strong as that 1 hour trend line breakout I showed you earlier. And so at this point, it was obvious that that short-term long strength was beginning to wane. Okay, and moreover, following that, this area right here, there was actually a legitimate 15-minute HNS that formed, which actually hit its target height level before reaching its right shoulder stop loss level. Now, typically, if there's short-term long strength on this pair, even if a legitimate HNS forms on the lower time frames, price should not reach its target height level and come right back up to stop out the stop loss level before reaching its target. However, in this case, price actually reached its target height level. So that was a definite sign that this short-term long strength is waning, and that short-term long strength is neutral at best. However, recall, in order to get that pullback long for that short entry, from this moment forward, I want lower confirmation of future long strength. So let me go ahead and show you what type of lower confirmation I'll be looking for in the coming days. Now, the most important trend line that could show me lower time frame long strength is on this 4-hour chart. So let me just get rid of these. All right, so one of those trend lines is from this pivot to this pivot right here. See, there's many respects of this trend line. And moreover, another one is from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now, at a basic level, if I could get another trend line breakout, one of these trend lines, and have an immediate break back in, and moreover, price to reach its last major pivot high, which for the time being is at this pivot high right here, but it can be at this pivot high depending on how price makes movements in the coming days. And moreover, if this situation can also happen on this bottom trend line also, where there's a breakout, then an immediate break back in, well, that'll confirm a little bit more long strength on the lower time frames for me. Okay, and moreover, there are some signs I actually do not want to see on the lower time frames that show short-term short strength. So let me show you an example of that. Let's go over to the 1-hour chart. All right, so again, on this 1-hour chart, I want to pull back long as much as possible so I could take that short entry along with that weekly bias. Okay, and what I showed you on that 4-hour chart with that breakout of the trend line and the immediate break back in, that shows short-term long strength. So let me just show you an example of what I don't want to see. Or in other words, I don't want to see any lower time frame strong short strength, right? So try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now this is just the opposite of what I've been mentioning earlier. I do not want to see price to wiggle around this area and then make a breakout long, then an immediate break back in, and moreover price reaching the last major pivot low right here, because that will confirm short-term short strength. Okay, so for the coming days, I'll be looking at this type of short-term price action. And moreover, another element I do not want to see is lower time frame confirmation through price patterns. So for example, I do not want to see a fake double top, which actually shows short-term long strength, right? But if price could still push down to its target height level before reaching its second piece stop loss level, that's going to show short-term short strength also. So I do not want to see these types of price patterns. All right, so let me show you the levels I'm considering with a short trade. So let's go back to the weekly chart. Okay, so again on this weekly chart, that short bias is stating that price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. Well, so in other words, the main stop loss level is right here, while the main target is right here. So I want as deep as a pullback as possible so I can minimize the stop loss while increasing the profit potential. And thus I'll be watching the lower time frames to see how much of a pullback we can get. Now at the current moment, if price keeps showing short-term long strength, then perhaps I'll be willing to take a 100 pip short entry. So in other words, since the stop loss is at this level right here at 133.79, I'll be willing to take a short entry at 132.79, roughly at these levels right here. However, if the lower time frames begin to show waning long strength, or even a worst case scenario where there's short-term short strength, I'll be willing to take a short entry with a 200 pip stop loss roughly in these areas, or perhaps 150 pip stop loss roughly in these areas. Okay, so really it depends on what happens on lower time frames for me at this point. So I'll keep you guys updated with that. All right, and finally, let me just show you the levels at this point right now that are providing strong long strength on the monthly chart. So let's go over there. Okay, so on this monthly chart, the gap level that's providing long strength at this moment is this gap right here. And the price levels for that is, on this top side is 127.73 and the lower end is 126.84. Okay, even if we don't get that pullback to get that short entry, price falls down to these levels right here. The next thing I'll be looking for in terms of that short bias on the weekly chart is a monthly close under this gap level. Okay, so let's go on to the pound dollar. Okay, and if you're having trouble understanding what I'm talking about in terms of weekly biases and fake and legitimate price patterns, please watch my price action trading course, for that course is designed to provide you the necessary information so you can understand these forecasts. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this horizontal trend line right here just became legitimate with its 3 touches right here, and right here, and since price has a tendency to want to test strong levels, in the long term, I'm long biased. Right back up to this horizontal trend line right here. And more on the weekly chart, since the last weekly short trade was weaker than the last weekly long trade. In the short term, I'm also long biased, right back up to this pivot high right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. For a full explanation of what's been happening in the price in this entire area right here, please refer to the Forex Recap series. Okay, but the last move that happened on this pair was, there was a weak short trade that formed right here, and a strong long trade that formed right here. And so at that point, the bias was long, or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low right here. However, moreover, there was a possibility that this long trade already hit its main target at a monthly gap level that runs right through this level right here. However, there was no confirmation of this long trade hitting its target at this gap level, according to the lower time frames. And so for the time being, price seems to be on its way to its weekly bias target right up here. So what I'll be looking for in the coming days is, again, just like the euro yen, a pullback as much as possible to that main stop loss level right here, while maintaining its integrity on the lower time frames of long strength. And so I could take a long entry, again with the stop loss at this pivot low and its main target being right here. Okay, so on this pound dollars case, what I want is for a price to actually fall as much as possible for that long entry. So let me show you the type of price action I'll be looking for on the lower time frames to confirm this short-term short strength. Alright, so let's go over to the 1 hour chart. Okay, so on this 1 hour chart, that long strength was consistently confirmed this week also with this lower confirmation of long strength in this area right here. So what happened here is as follows. Try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. So again, what happened was price broke out of that trend line, then immediately broke back into the trend line. So in other words, the breakout candles close and the break-in candles open is at the same level. Now again, you want to recall, you want these trend line breakout confirmations to almost have the sense of a fake breakout. And moreover, again, it did reach its prior pivot high at this level right here. So the short-term long strength at this point is intact. So what I'll be looking for on this pair in the coming days are twofold. So on this 1 hour chart, I'll be watching this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. So what I want to happen to confirm short-term short strength is for price to break out of this and not immediately break back in. So in other words, if price breaks out of this, then wiggles around a bit and then breaks back in, well then that's a sign of waning long strength. So that's the first thing I want to see. But there's actually another trend line that I'm acutely watching for. So let's go over to the 4 hour chart. Okay, so on this 4 hour chart, try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Alright, and it's the same as the 1 hour chart. I do not want 4 hour price to break out and break back in immediately. I'd much rather have it break out, wiggle around a bit, then break back in, or even possibly just continuous descent at that point. Okay, and moreover, there's actually a possible fake double top that is forming at the current moment. Now, what I'll be watching for on this fake double top is for price to actually reach its target height level before reaching its right peak stop loss level right here, because that would indicate short-term short strength, right? All right, so let me show you the levels I'll be looking at for possible entries long for this long entry. Let's go back to the weekly chart. All right, so on this weekly chart, the stop loss for this weekly long bias is right here. That level is roughly at 1.3159. So again, similar to the euro yen, a 200 pip stop is roughly around here at 133.59, with a 100 pip stop loss roughly in these areas right here. However, in this case, I will most likely not be taking a long entry with a 200 pip stop loss, just for the reason that this long bias is not as strong as the one seen on the euro yen's weekly short entry. However, price can pull right back down to 1.3159 levels right here, giving me about a 100 pip stop loss. Then I will consider a long entry, again with the stop loss at this pivot low and its main target being right here. Okay, so again, in terms of lower time frame confirmation, I want to consistently see short-term short strength forming in the coming days. Okay, all right, so that's it for the weekly forecast. I hope you guys have a great week, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.